I'm going to start out just by giving you a little background on AndroBar very quickly. AndroBar is a liquor control system. It first appeared on the market back in 2018 in its current form that you'll see behind me. Prior to that, the company, the head office company, which is called USC, which I'm part of, is a company that's been around since 1996. So we've been doing liquor control, beer control, wine control in bars and restaurants for about 30 years now. So that's a little bit of background of the company. We are, so you all know, in Canada, we're a Canadian company. We do have a presence in the US. We have a small office in Florida, but primarily all of the equipment that you're going to see today is either made in Canada or made in the US. We try to keep everything in North America as far as production goes so that we are always able to ship in very quickly from our offices, either in Canada or in the US. And behind me physically, I'm going to show you the equipment before we get to do an actual demo where you'll see the Quantic POS sending orders and the AndroBar. I'm going to just try to get a little bit closer into as far as I can in the equipment so I can show you what the equipment is, what part of the equipment we're talking about. And AndroBar is a modular system. So it's basically made up, if I'm looking right here, of an Android tablet that runs an AndroBar software that drives everything, a control box, which is under here, which controls this device. This is a donut. And the reason we call it a donut, it's actually an activator ring, as we like to call it in the industry, but we call it a donut because it's got a hole in the middle, so it looks like a donut. So, and this is what you would normally have in the bar. This is a sort of a bar that you might have in any of your clients. We have a tablet, the control box, the donut, and then every one of the bottles in the bar will have one of these spouts on them. These are pouring spouts, and they are inserted in the bottle. I'll just do a quick, just take one off just to give you an idea of what that is. So this is the spout that goes on the bottle. Very easy. You push it in, and then for security purposes, what you want to do is you want to put one of these heat shrink on it. And that, sorry, you got the wrong one. The heat shrink, basically we call it a heat shrink because we put it over the bottle, and then we have a heat gun that you heat it up. It contracts around the bottle and around the spout and makes a perfect seal. So it's a security seal, which means what? When the manager looks behind the bar, he sees the security seals on the bottle, then he knows that everything is sealed and secure. If he sees a bottle that looks like this, then somebody's removed the security seal. Now, these seals, once they're heat shrunk around the bottle, they cannot be removed like I'm doing. You really have to tear them to get them off. And of course, they're not reusable. But that's the whole purpose of them, is to make sure that they seal the spout to the bottle. Okay, so that's in essence what the seal, the spout does, and this device here is what opens that bottle. So when we take a bottle and we put it into the device to pour, that's kind of like how we pick it up. If I move over here a bit, so this is the support for the donut, and basically we walk up to it like this. We put it in, we grab it with our finger in the back, and then we can walk over and pour. Now, as you can see, nothing is pouring because I have no orders. I have nothing from Quantic yet. I didn't receive any orders, so nothing will pour. What has to happen for the system to pour is that orders have to appear on the screen. If I can give you a reference to what I'm talking about when I say orders appearing on the AndroBar screen, think of it as a kitchen display system, but in this case, it's for the bar. So when you order with Quantic, you're going to receive orders on the screen here, and then you can pour them. Okay, so that's basically the equipment itself. One of the things that's very important, because it's modular and it's 3 different parts to the system, it also is very easy to service. So if something should happen with a customer, this is the weakest link of the system. It's the donut. It falls. People play with it. People use it as an ice crusher in the bar. Sometimes they'll put it in a pitcher of water because they think that's the way to clean it. And if this does something happens to it, what is great about the AndroBar system, which is one of the big differences we have with all the other legacy systems, is that this donut can be replaced live. So something happens, you pull out the broken one or the old one, you put in the new one, you screw it back in, that's it, you're ready to go. There isn't any need to calibrate. You don't have to open up the box. You don't need to do anything in the software. It's plug and play instantly. So your downtime is minimal, as long, of course, as if you have a backup. Most of our clients, when we sell systems, depending where they are in the US, we always like to give them an option to buy a second donut to have as a backup. These donuts, a regular use, will last anywhere between 3 to 4 years. That's the average that we see in the industry. So usually they'll last a very long time. Of course, the busier the bar is, the more pouring they do, the more use they end up, with the donut. Chances are, that 3-4 year period of normal wear and tear, it might be maybe 2 to 3 years of wear and tear. But again, that's the average in the industry. It is a completely molded design. It's waterproof. So if somebody does put it in water, it won't affect it. But like anything, it's plugged into a power supply. There's power in here. We don't want to be putting this in water. It's like somebody taking a bath and blow drying their hair. Right? So that's the hardware part of the system. And we can get back to it if you guys have questions about particular parts of the system. What I'd like to do now is I like to share my screens that I'm looking at, and you're going to be able to see the screen of the Quantic POS, and next to it, you're going to see the screen that the AndroBar unit is showing. So, and you'll get to see how the orders work out. So let me switch over to sharing my screen. Okay.
Yeah, no, just a reminder for you folks watching. If you do have questions, you can put them in the Q&A field and we can answer them as the presentation goes on. Otherwise, we can wait till the end and we can answer any questions at that time.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm assuming everybody can see my screen that I shared. I have a Quantic POS on the left-hand side and the AndroBar screen on the other side. So if everybody can see that, I'll move on to placing a few orders, and then we'll take a look and see what shows up on the screen, what you're going to see when you order something, and then how we pour it. And I'll switch back to the AndroBar unit after we have a few orders in, so that you can see how I'm pouring and what else you'll see on the screen. So in this case, I have some cocktails here. I'm going to order a martini with vodka choice of Tito's. I'm going to do done. I'll take a Bloody Mary, but I'm going to make maybe 3 of them. Somebody wants 3. Again, I'll use Tito's. That's done. And I'm just going to send the order. Send and stay, or send, either way. Now, if you look up on the screen, you'll see that I have a Martini Classic that came into the AndroBar unit. And if you look at the right-hand side, you'll see it's going to allow me to pour 2 ounces of Tito's and a 1/4 ounce of vermouth or dry vermouth. And right now, the process as a bartender, once I see that on my AndroBar screen, is very simple. I walk up to the AndroBar unit, I look at the screen, it says Tito's, I pick up my bottle of Tito's, I put that in, it shows me the ingredients that I have to use to make the martini, it shows me what I have to put in the glass, so in this case I have some ice cubes, I have some olives, it tells me how to prepare it, so anybody can prepare it. You don't need to be a professional bartender to use AndroBar, because we put all the information for every drink, including a photo of what the drink should look like, right up on the screen. Now, if I take my bottle of Tito's, and how do I know it's Tito's? If you look up at the top of the screen in the middle of the AndroBar screen, you'll see it says Tito's. When I remove it, it's no longer there. When I put it back on the donut, it appears. I take my glass, I turn it over. It's going to pour my 2 ounces and stop. I put away the bottle. I pick up my next bottle. In this case, it's the dry vermouth, which is here. I put that bottle in, pick up my glass or my vermouth. And what you'll notice is that on the screen, the instructions remain so that I can finish preparing the drink the way that it has to be prepared. And once I finish the preparation, I touch it, and now I'm going to do my Bloody Mary. Same thing. Again, I chose Tito's. So we pick up the Tito's, we put it in, we turn it over, we pour it, it finishes, the preparation screen remains. I finish my preparation, I put in my celery stick, I put in everything else, and then I'm done. So that's the basic process between how you send an order from Quantic and what happens when we receive it in AndroBar, and how do we make that drink. So again, if you don't order from Quantic, you are not going to be able to make the drink. So everything is, as we call it in AndroBar, we use the term punch to pour. So if you don't punch it into Quantic, you won't be able to pour it. Okay, that's the basis. That's the basic scenario of how we make a drink from Quantic and how we pour it in AndroBar. There are some things that we have to talk about very quickly, and that is, you may have a manager that may want to pour something out of the AndroBar system, but it's not something that he wants to order in Quantic. He wants to make something outside of Quantic. It could be something he wants to give his client. It may be a drink that he wants to make, but he can't because it wasn't programmed in Quantic, and because he doesn't have the time to do it, he can override the system here by simply walking up with a manager key. It's a little RFID fob, and by tapping it into the system here, he ends up punching in. I can find the code. I can't remember what the code is, but it will bring him up into a screen that will allow him to pour whatever he wants. I'm going to just stop sharing that for a sec so you can see me in a larger picture. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to try and see if I can find a manager code. There it is. Okay. So that's the screen that I was talking about when I can share that again just to be sure you can see it. Let me share that again. There we go. So the screen that the AndroBar is in now is it's basically a self-pour screen. It's a manager screen that allows me to pick the size that I want by selecting it, putting in any bottle, and pouring it. So that's something that you would do outside of the POS if you had to override the POS ordering and allow you to do pours in a manager scenario. Of course, everything that gets poured in AndroBar, everything that comes out of a bottle, every ounce, we will put that in a report, and you can access that report at any time. Put this back. So that's basically more or less, without going into technical details, that's the basically the POS punch to pour situation that you would be using with Quantic, the Quantic to AndroBar interface. That's basically it. Dana, I don't know if I missed anything, if you can maybe give me a little heads up on anything that we might have missed after what I just went through, and if there are any questions, or you want to maybe take over and show them how to set up the interface in Quantic. I don't know if that's a step that you want to make.
So one thing I think that's really important is that, so this isn't just item-based sending. Jim had kind of compared it to a KDS. So what you would have saw when he was bringing in items, whether it was the Bloody Mary or the Martini, is AndroBar is not just picking up on the item, it's also picking up on the modifiers. And so one thing you could talk about today as well is, what does the programming process look like between you, and a merchant or a partner for programming AndroBar?
Okay, so the basically what we do when we have a customer that has a Quantic and wants to integrate AndroBar into it, we basically do a very simple thing. We will get an Excel spreadsheet, usually from Quantic, which is an export of your menu items. And what we'll do is we'll take that Excel spreadsheet and we'll directly import it into AndroBar. So the advantage of that is that you don't have to sit there and type in things. We do all of that programming at AndroBar. We take the customer's database from Quantic, we take the text, we import it into AndroBar, and the reason we do that is, one, less data entry. Second, the way that AndroBar receives orders from the POS is, and I can show you here on the info screen so you can see why, if you look at this last order I sent on the AndroBar screen, you're actually seeing a chit or an order coupon that normally would have printed in a printer in the bar. And what we're doing in AndroBar is we're receiving that coupon as if we were a printer. And then what we're doing is we're looking at the line where it says 3 berry margaritas, and we compare the berry margarita name to what we have in the AndroBar database. And if we match the name letter for letter, we then bring up the item and allow you to pour it. We'll read the quantity. The other thing that we will also read, I want to do a martini here with a Grey Goose just to show you what happens when we send that. And I get the martini. Now, if I go back to info and I look at the POS orders in AndroBar, I have a martini with a Grey Goose. So I'm reading the word martini. I go into my database, I find it. And then in AndroBar, we use a thing called option. If I see the option activated in the martini, I will start looking for the modifier, in this case, Grey Goose. And if I have a Grey Goose in my list of bottles in AndroBar, then I will let you make a martini. But in this case, the martini will be made with the Grey Goose, the way that you see it here on the screen. So we are able to read modifiers. and modify the drink based on the modifier. What that does for your clients is that they can upsell, right? The waiters can go in and say, you would like a martini or a margarita. What type of, what brand of vodka do you want? What brand of gin do you want? And it allows you to upsell those drinks. Also, you don't have to create a martini for every single type of vodka and gin that you have and have to program that in Quantic. In Quantic, you're going to make one button called martini, and then you can select all the different vodkas and gins, and we will accommodate that change in AndroBar as well. So
Got
thanks,
it.
Dana.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. That's a big selling point for both systems.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. And then so with the data that gets sent over to you, I would imagine there's got to be a field for like ounces, right? So if it says Classic Martini and I hit Grey Goose, the system needs to know, is it two
Yes,
ounces? Is it 1 ounce? Is it half an
exactly.
ounce as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that would be if I can bring up something very quick, which is actually the back office. I'm not sure you can see that because I'm not sure I'm sharing.
Oh,
You
we can
see
see it.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's another. This is the back office of AndroBar. AndroBar runs in a browser. So as long as you have a browser, you can access it, and you can access it from multiple locations in your restaurant. So you don't. It is running on a Windows computer. We need a Windows computer in the premise. We can provide one to the client if they don't have one. So we can do a really turnkey system with including the the Windows. Usually it's a laptop if they don't have one, but they can access the back office from anywhere. I mean, they could pull out their phone and we can set it up on their phone. They can access the back office from a phone, from a tablet, anywhere that they are on premise. When we're talking about what you just mentioned, Dana, is if I go to look up a martini, I think it's this one here. So this is the martini that we have been testing with the last few orders. So you can see here on the right-hand side, I have the word option. When I see the word option, what I'm doing is I read the modifier and I go looking for the modifier in the list of bottles. And then if I find it, I bring it back into if I move this over a bit, you can see it here. I bring back the option. I replace the option by Grey Goose, and I have 2 ounces. So the size that we want to make of that martini is 2 ounces. It could be 3 ounces, it could be 1.5, it could be whatever the client wants. So the part that we obviously may not be able to get from the database or the Excel spreadsheet that we get out of Quantic may be the cocktail recipes. So we will normally, when we get the list, we'll see that there's a martini. We'll see that there is a Cosmo. We'll see that there is a Bloody Mary. We'll see all of these cocktails in your list. We have a standard database with thousands of cocktails already in it that we will then put into our spreadsheet when we send it back to the customer. In that spreadsheet, he's going to have all of the different cocktails with our recipes. And all they have to do is go in and say, okay, that's the recipe that I'm using, use the same recipe, or they can change the recipe, put in, 3 ounces for the martini for the vodka because that, they want to be generous. They can change that to whatever they want. And then what happens when we get it back, when we get that spreadsheet back, we'll go and make the changes in the system for them.
Hmm.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
And again, when you're doing recipes, the size that you want to pour can be anything. It can be from 0.15 of an ounce all the way to 26 ounces. You can pour the whole bottle if you want to.
Wow. Okay. That's
So there's
great.
no limit.
And there's another great thing that was mentioned that Jim showed, which was the recipe on the actual Andro bar screen. So I
Right.
think that's a really nice feature as well, because as a bartender, you could see that. You never have to worry about, oh no, how do you make that drink again? And then, that also helps with like waste. because if I go to make a drink and I make it incorrectly, well, now I got to pitch all that alcohol and then make it again.
Right.
But instead, I always know I can always look and see, oh, I know exactly what I need as long as I follow this recipe.
Right. Yeah. And the advantage with that also, Dana, is that many restaurants have, a hard time finding employees, have hard time finding professional bartenders. Some of them don't want to work on, the days where it's not very busy. So, you have a hard time finding employees to work on a Monday or a Tuesday. They all want to work, the Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. Well, if you do have quiet days and you still want to obviously, sell liquor in your bar and you want to provide service to your clients, let the waiters make the drinks. If they
Mm,
don't punch it, they can't pour it, right? So I mean, if they can follow instructions and they know what bottle is what, they can. If they can read, I usually say if they can read, they can make a drink on their
mm,
own. Okay, and that's the other thing with AndroBar, you don't really need to have a specific login code in AndroBar for every user. You can have one code, call it punch to pour. Usually it's one enter. It's called punch to pour. Nothing is going to be made unless somebody punches it into the POS, and you're going to get your money, right? Because the POS, everything in AndroBar is driven by the POS. You
mm.
don't punch it, we don't pour it. And if you do
Got it.
pour it outside of the POS, well, we track everything. We track everything.
Got it. So does that mean there's a report that says like non-POS driven pours?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
It will give
That's good.
you, and that's a report that we email to the owner of the restaurant or bar every morning automatically, and it could be multiple emails. They'll get an email from the AndroBar system, and it will give them what happened the day previous, because our closing day for us is 5 o'clock in the morning. That's the day switches over, and they get an email at 7, 8, 9 o'clock, whatever, with their coffee as they're waking up. They get that email. It shows them what was punch to pour, what manager poured outside of the punch to pour, who it was, the name of the manager. Of course, the managers you want to have specific login codes and names so that you can track who did what and why they did it. But everything that comes out of the AndroBar system is counted and reported.
Mm, good. Okay. Yeah, and I think, from in terms of selling points, we've already mentioned a few things. So the first side of it, right, is portion control. You don't have to worry that a bartender is going to accidentally over pour or even under pour,
Right.
and that's a huge deal, especially when it comes to saving money. The element of loss prevention is there, of course, so that no one is pouring drinks that they aren't supposed to be. So I think those are two really big benefits to the liquor control system.
Yeah, also, don't forget that when you're making drinks with a liquor control system, you are providing a constant recipe to your clients. So
Hmm.
when they come in, 2 weeks later and they have that same drink, they're going to get exactly what they got 2 weeks ago. They're not going to get more booze one day or less the next day. It's always the constant drink with the sizes that you are, paying for. So if somebody's paying for 2.5 ounces, 3 ounces, whatever it might be, they know that they're going to get their money's worth because every time they come, they get a consistent drink. That's
Hmm.
very, on the client side, it's very important. People don't
Yeah, that
mind
makes a lot of sense.
paying. People don't mind paying, but they want to, make sure they're getting what they're paying for.
All right. So Jim, I think at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and show everyone how it gets set up on the Quantic side. It's really simple.
Yeah, go to it.
Okay. So of course, I'm in my back office portal. And so what we're going to do is from the back office portal, we're going to go ahead and go down to our App Store, which is where all of our modules are. And then we're going to see down here in the very bottom middle, you can see an option that says AndroBar. If this isn't already enabled, you would go in and you would enable it. Once enabled, this area is going to remind you if you've ever set up a printer within Quantic, it's going to be a whole lot like that. So here we can see we've got multiple different stations and multiple different lines. What we're doing here is that for every AndroBar liquor control station on site, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a name and then we're going to put in the IP address of the tablet. Much like what Jim had mentioned, it works just like a printer or a KDS. It's a very similar concept, is to, it really just needs to know the destination of where to send this information. So what we do is we go in here, we create as many stations as we have AndroBar stations in the bar. That would be step one. And then step two is we need to go into the drinks that we're sending. So whether it be at the item level or at the category level. So for example, let's say I'm going to configure my whiskey sour. So I find the item. And then here, normally, just like when we're doing printer assignments, whether that be food going to the kitchen or drinks going to the bar, we would also assign this item to whatever station that is going to be associated with it. So we'll say the whiskey sour needs to go to station 1. I would select that just like I would select anything else. And then I would click save, and then I'm good to go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this next moment to look at any pending questions. Let me take a look at Abraham. First question we have here is, if we had to override, we have to manually input the drink into the system, correct? It would be an open order. So the scenario that Jim had showed earlier was, what if there's a scenario where you need to pour a drink and you aren't going to record it in the point of sale? So there is a way to bypass it if you have to. So now you are absolutely right. If you do want the point of sale to keep track of it, but for whatever reason you don't want to ring in a particular item in the catalog, then yes, you would use an open item.
Yeah. And if you don't reach,
And then in your next question, Abram, you say, in Quantic, will we be able to do straight shots? Can you give an example? Like, I want a shot of tequila, Don Julio. Will I be able to choose a single pour or a double pour? Jim, you might want
yes,
to you could probably clarify this a little bit.
of
So this
course.
kind of sounds like a scenario where um, I would think the way it would get programmed is like I might have maybe the button is called shot, and there's a
Right.
modifier that says Don Julio 1 ounce or Don Julio 2 ounces. In that
Yes.
case, I would just select which one, and then
Yeah.
AndroBar would know what to pour.
Yeah. Because we can read in AndroBar when we have a bottle programmed in the system. If I can show you that on the screen visually, it's easier. So what we do is you look at on the right-hand side, you have these 6 sizes. These are the default sizes. In a cocktail, we can put whatever size we want, but in a bottle, we put these 6 sizes. So you can see we have in the description column, down at the bottom, you see we have SH, and then we also have DBL. So we can put anything we want in that description column. And if you send me an absolute, and at the end of it, it says SH for shot, I will pick up the SH and I will pour 0.85 of an ounce. If you send me an absolute with the word double after it, I will let you pour a double or 2 ounces in this case. In your example, Dana, if it's a 1OZ at the end or a 2OZ at the end in your shot, that's what we're going to put in as a description, and that's what we're going to pour.
Got it. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah, we can do
All
that.
right. All right, folks. Does anyone have any other questions? You can either type them up into the chat, or if you can raise your hand and you can ask a question that way.
I'm taking all kinds of questions, except personal ones.
Will the system do happy hour specials? Does Quantic allow that? So what's nice about that is Quantic does have a happy hour component. We call it time discounts or promotions. So yeah, so maybe from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, Quantic will automatically discount that, based on day of the week, time of the day, and item. Then at that point in time, since it's the same item that's already been programmed with AndroBar, then it'll automatically pour just like it would any other time of the week.
Yeah, at a discounted price for that period. Yeah.
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 Randy says, can you send an entire category to a service station?
Yes, we can send, again, it's, think of AndroBar as a printer. So any way that you can program a printer to receive orders from category of menu, it doesn't, it could be a category in the menu. It could be specific tables on the floor. And, Dana, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't have the knowledge in Quantic as you do. But if you can program all this in Quantic, then you can pretty much do whatever you can with a printer. It can be by terminal, it could be by table section, it could be by menu category. Yeah, I think that would we can do all that.
Yeah, I mean, like if you have a table of four, and each one orders a different cocktail, you could, all those orders are going to get sent to that station.
Right, exactly. So we can have a station in the bar, which we can have multiple Andro bars in the same bar. If you have a very big bar or a busy bar, you may designate one of the Andro bars as a service bar. So it's going to take care of all the drinks coming from the floor, from the tables. And then you could have a second Andro bar in the bar, and that's going to look after the bartender serving people that are sitting at the bar directly. That you can have that scenario. You can have another scenario we call the master slave scenario. And how that works is you can have two AndroBar units in the bar. Both of them are going to be receiving the same order. So when I send an order for a martini, it will appear on both of the screens that are here behind me. But what will happen is as soon as one bartender selects that martini, it disappears from the other screen. What that does is it allows you to have multiple Andro bars in a busy bar, but obviously you're not going to be pouring the drink twice. Depending who picks the drink up, they're going to make it. It disappears from the other screen. So you can have
Got it.
multiple bartenders working in a busy bar.
Good to know. That's super helpful.
Yeah,
All right. Oh, Robin has a question.
I do. Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm good, Robin. How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
So, a question, two parts. First one is if we have a merchant or a partner that is interested in a demo for AndroBar, are
Yes,
you doing that demo?
I am. Yeah, just like the demo you saw today.
Okay.
We
And the
we
second
can
part is when it comes to pricing, then do you do the pricing for said merchant or partner?
We can do that as well. We can provide, as long as we know how many bottles they have, we'll ask a few questions, how many bottles, how many bartenders in the bar. And yes, we can provide the quote to the end user.
Okay.
Yeah,
I guess I have a three-parter.
yeah,
And I
good.
might have missed it because I hopped on a little bit late. Um, do you go out and do the install at the location?
So depending where the location is, um, we could do it ourselves. We have people in the US that can also do the actual physical install. We can send them out to do the install. Depending how, some of the Quantic people are adept at installing things, so they might be able to do it themselves. If you look behind me and you look at that tablet, it's no different than if you were to put up a Quantic terminal. You basically, got to put it in the bar, connect an Ethernet cable to it because it's all working on the same network as Quantic. But if you need someone physically to go to a location to install it, yeah, we can arrange that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great questions, Robin. All right, folks. Let's see. What is the monthly service fee? All right, yep. So, Randy, that is something that Jim would be able to establish and quote based on number of stations, bottles, things like
Right.
that.
Yeah. And it all depends on how many stations we have installed. And at Quant, I think if somebody wants to get an idea of pricing, what we can do is they reach out to me or reach out to Dana. I can put together just a very generic quote, like one station, 50 spouts, that kind of thing, just to kind of give an idea of what a customer might be looking at if they were going to have to buy an AndroBar unit.
Robin, another question.
Sorry, I just know Jim, and I've been on a couple of Jim's demos before, and I think a great thing that you've gone over before, Jim, is the investment versus how quickly they make that money back in revenue, like the
Yeah,
ROI on.
we didn't talk about that at all, but it's a very good question. In our over the past, I guess maybe 10 years that we've been accumulating data from customers, the general consensus from most of our customers, or at least probably 90% of them, is that an AndroBar system, once they put it in, if they haven't had any other kind of liquor control, if they were free pouring before, and they put in an AndroBar system, what we're getting is, and it's very specific, it's 20 to 30% less liquor purchases than they were before the AndroBar system went in. So that's the saving. The saving is you're not, and again, you can translate that to profit, but you're buying a lot less liquor than you were before. That's the savings. And in most installations that we have, the average return on investment, what it cost and how long it took you to get that money back is anywhere between 6 months to 10 months. That's usual.
Hmm.
And again, don't forget, if you have a customer with a very tiny bar, I have a couple of customers that have basically speed rails, and that's it. They have 8, 9 bottles. They make drinks from those bottles. They don't have anything fancy. And even those customers that have very small bars have found savings with AndroBar.
That's good. Folks, so the presentation today was recorded. So if anyone needs a copy of it, feel free to let us know. Jim, I really appreciate you being here. This was great to see. I'm really excited to see this in action. As a reminder, we do these demonstrations every month. Today was to showcase AndroBar. On Thursday, we will be showcasing the new QuickBooks Online integration update. I'll use this time. We'll just wait a couple minutes to see if anyone has any other questions. And then, Callie, do you have anything else for anybody else?
No, thank you, Jim and Dana. I really appreciate this. I am going to post in the chat Jim's email address if you are interested in booking a demo with him directly.
Anytime.
Yes, perfect. And I'll also put in my contact information as well. So if you have any questions or you'd like to reach out to me, please feel free to do so.
Awesome. All right.
Awesome.
Well, folks,
excellent.
That's it for the webinar for today. We'll stick around for just a couple minutes in case anyone has other questions. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.